Hello, everybody. Joseph P. Farrell here. It is August the 11th, pardon me, the 12th, Friday in the morning, actually. Special cameo appearance by Mike Flanchered. But like you probably were doing what I was doing last night, and that was watching the Republithugs, or pardon me, the Republicrooks, or pardon me, the Republicans in Ames, Iowa, debating each other. And I have a number of observations. I don't know if you all noticed this, but the first observation I had is that this was a real debate. This wasn't one of the town hall staged events that have become so typical of the American presidential races in the last few years. Actually, I was entertained, if nothing else. But it was a real debate. But what really got me, and I hope you all noticed this too, there were two candidates that really stuck out in my mind. One of them I don't even like, but I have to admit that I liked what he said. And the other one that I do like, and I liked even more what he said. And what really got me was this actually made it onto a major network. There was no attempt to skirt the issue anymore. And that was remarks that were made by Congressman Ron Paul from Texas and the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. And the comments that really drew my attention were Ron Paul's comment that we needed to straighten out our monetary philosophy. And he talked about phasing out the Federal Reserve and returning, in his comment, to a gold-backed or bullion-backed currency. Now, for any of you who've read my book, Babylon's Banksters, I am absolutely 100% behind Congressman Paul when he advocates a return to debt-free or constitutional money and for a gradual phasing out of the Federal Reserve. I don't think it's something that should be done all at once, but I do agree with him that we need to return to constitutional money. What really floored me was that remark was followed up or corroborated by the former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, who also called for an audit of the Federal Reserve. And as Congressman Paul pointed out, he had been calling for this for a long time. So what he said was, I'm glad that finally the mainstream has caught up with the rest of us. And this is true. This was, I think, a very, very significant development within American politics, that you no longer have these ideas being talked about by someone who is, quote unquote, so to speak, on the fringe, like Congressman Paul. But now you have a major figure in the American political debate, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, also getting on that bandwagon to a certain extent. Now, where I have to depart from Congressman Paul is his comment that this would mean a return to bullion-backed money. There is no need for a debt-free currency to be based upon any sort of bullion backing. The only thing that bullion does is it puts one more step that the banksters can control between the money and the gross domestic product of the nation, all right? We got along just fine, as I document in Babylon's Banksters, in the colonial period, when the colonies were bullion poor but issued their own debt-free currency and were doing a very good job, incidentally, of keeping inflation under control. We had full employment back then, and we had no need for a central bank. We had no need for bullion. So that's where I would disagree with Congressman Paul. Bullion is not an automatic safeguard against inflation. And I have a blog coming up about this in a couple of days where I point out that the bullion standard, the gold standard, was in use by all the major powers of the world prior to World War I. And as the costs of World War I mounted, it gradually became clear that trying to have a currency backed by bullion simply was impractical because there was a gradual inflation of the amount of currency in circulation. So you don't need it. They financed World War I without it, all the combatants. So that's where I would disagree. The other thing that really stood out in my mind was once again Congressman Paul's very clear set or system of philosophical beliefs and how closely he adheres to them. And I have to doff my hat to him, even though I would disagree with some of those things. But the most important thing I think that he said that none of the other candidates said, and maybe you all are in agreement or not in agreement with this, but that was his whole approach to this war on terror is that it is a big sham and we need to call the troops home, quit this empire building nonsense, and take care of domestic problems here. And to that, I have to say a hearty amen. He's the only candidate, to my knowledge, in either political party of any major stature willing to go out and point out the philosophical problems with this empire building that this country has been engaged upon ever since really the end of World War II, but really getting going after the Reagan administration and continuing all the way up to the present. So anyway, I was really very impressed with the overall quality of the debate. The only thing that didn't impress me was, as usual, you have the typical need for the Republithugs to appeal to a certain religious element in this country, which in the long run practices only a form of intolerance. And that I find still to be the most disturbing aspect of a lot of politics on the American right. It's going to be an interesting election cycle because it's very clear, at least to me, that basically any of these candidates would be a clear leader if the election were held today over the president. What's really going to be interesting over the next few months is watching how the Republithugs position themselves in terms of the selection of who it is that's going to carry their party's banner against Barack Obama in 2012. I do have to admit that even though I tend to be bipartisan, namely loathing both political parties equally, I do tend to agree with the overall tenor of that debate last night that basically we've had a do-nothing president. We're facing some major economic problems that both parties in the past few decades have brought upon. So anyway, I'm curious as to what everybody else's reaction about the presidential debate was. I'm sure I'll be hearing from you about that. Anyway, we're still going forward. Just another update about the website. I will be talking with my business developer, Daniel, next week about our conference plans. We've got some other plans in the works for the members area that we're hoping to instigate within the next couple of months. And we're going to be talking also about doing some other things by way of ebooks, not only on my site, but I'm going to start another website, possibly with my co-author Scott DeHart, where we'll be posting more ebooks. So I'm very busy right now, folks. I realize that some of you are waiting for news about the conference. We're still going ahead with planning on that, but we've still got a lot to do. So be patient and hang in there, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye-bye, everybody.